Ev. It's happening. Was that
Okay.
the ice? Yeah, it's noisy.
Sorry.
Did everybody hear the ice?
Right. Said it's going to be going live.
Yep. Ev. It's happening.
Okay.
And what's interesting is that we actually end up being live before it shows us that we're live. And so I have to be careful what I say. Okay, great. We've got a number of people volunteering for readings. Great. All right. So now let's take a moment and just breathe. Whatever is on your mind from the week, maybe just see if you can put that down for a little while, whatever you're carrying. Feel where your body is tense and let that go. Relax on your exhale. I'm just going to mute everybody just so we can not have background sounds. And please do unmute yourself if for any reason if you need to. All right. So let me share our prayer book that has the blessings for the candles and the Kiddush. Ellen, if you would do the honors of the candles. Ellen, you need to unmute.
Should I do a reading first before the candles?
You see the reading?
Yeah, I do. Okay.
Sure, that would be great.
Okay. O source of light and truth, creator of eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Let us take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter the sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed be you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the lights of Shabbat.
Amen. Thank you. For the Kiddush, I believe Robert Rothman was going to do the Kiddush for us, but I don't see Robert. Robert, are you here? I don't see Robert. Is there somebody else who has some Kiddush appropriate beverage who would like to read the Kiddush in English?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Let me just pull it up. There's my Kiddush appropriate beverage, cranberry juice. Okay. So pour first. I've never done this with you guys.
Pour first.
Pardon?
Yes, pour first.
Pour first. Okay.
And then if you would read the English for us.
With pleasure. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who, finding favor with us, sanctified us with mitzvot. In love and favor, you made the holy Shabbat our heritage, as a reminder of the work of creation. As first among our sacred days, it recalls the exodus from Egypt. You chose us and set us apart from the peoples. In love and favor, you have given us your holy Shabbat as an inheritance. Baruch atah Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Praise to you, Adonai. Sorry, who sanctify Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, b'shabbat kodsho b'havo v'ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit. Ki hu yom tehilal mikrai kodesh, zeicher letziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'chata, v'yotanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, b'shabbat kodshecha, be'ahava v'ratzon, hinechaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Amen.
And so now we begin our social action, social justice service. And this service comes from the RAC, the Religious Action Committee in Washington, D.C. And so I'm just going to read the introduction and then we're going to go forward. This Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, we celebrate Shabbat Tzedek, 50 years in pursuit of justice with the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism. The Religious Action Center was born out of the civil rights movement and has since played a leading role in nearly every major social justice campaign. It was founded in 1971. In an inspiring speech addressing the Union for Reform Judaism's 47th biennial banquet in November 1963, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. highlighted the involvement of Jews in the civil rights movement and charged us with challenges that we face in our pursuit of social justice, which still holds true today, stating, "Human progress comes through the tireless efforts and the persistent work of dedicated individuals who are willing to be co-workers with God. And without this hard work, time itself becomes an ally of the insurgent and primitive forces of social stagnation and irrational emotionalism. We must help time, and we must realize that the time is always right to do right." For the past 50 years, the Religious Action Center has embraced this principle that the time to act is now, that each of us must play an active role in tikkun olam, repairing the world, as a part of our daily lives. Today, on this Shabbat Tzedek, let us celebrate the work of the Religious Action Center, the legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and let us pray together and gain inspiration for our personal and collective pursuit of justice.
Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yimel od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yimel od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yimel od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yimel od milchama. And every man neath his vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And every man neath his vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And into plowshares beat their swords, nation shall make one no more. And into plowshares beat their swords, nation shall make one no more. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה, לא יישא גוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה.
I invite you to read responsively with me. This is our truth. The one God calls forth being from nothingness and makes all things one. Blessed is the Holy One of Israel, in whose oneness we are one. But we are not yet one in fact. Our human race is broken into fragments, and we wait to be redeemed into a lasting unity. Blessed is the time to come when all will at last be one. While hatred rules the earth, redemption will not come. Let the day be near when love will rule this world. Until people return from their exile from each other, redemption will not come. Let all exile be ended, our exile from one another, the exile of God's presence from our lives. Until we restore the lawless to their true selves and rekindle them in the spark of God, redemption will not come. Let us also
search out the flaws in our own souls
and struggle to remove them. While we care only for ourselves, redemption will not come. Let our hearts be moved by the misery of others and dare what must be dared. I think it's worth noting that this is from the Task Force on Soviet Jewry of the Union of American Hebrew Congregations, which later became the URJ in 1979.
שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני שיר חדש. Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God, and we'll all sing along. All the earth, a new song unto God. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. I will sing unto God a new song.
At the beginning of the service, I invited people who were interested in doing a reading during the service to say so in the chat. If you have done that already, I have your names. If you were not here when I made that request and you would like to do a reading during the service, please say so in the chat. And at this time, I would like to invite Gail Levine to unmute herself and read at the top of page 3.
I refuse to accept the idea that the isness of man's present nature makes him morally incapable of reaching up for the eternal oughtness that forever confronts him. I have to just, okay. I refuse to accept the view that mankind is so tragically bound to the starless midnight of racism and war that the bright daybreak of peace and brotherhood can never become a reality. I believe that the unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. I have the audacity to believe that peoples everywhere can have 3 meals a day for their bodies, education and culture for their minds, and dignity, equality, and freedom for their spirits. I believe that what self-centered men have torn down, men other-centered can build up. I still believe that we shall overcome. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Nobel Prize acceptance speech, December 10th, 1964.
We continue with Lecha Dodi. Thank you, Gail. And we welcome the Shabbat as a bride bringing joy and beauty to us.
לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. 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 שמו וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, כי ברכו מאורי, אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
I have someone in the chat telling me that they do not see the prayer book on their screen. Does everybody else see the prayer book?
Yeah, Rabbi,
Yes.
it's me, Judith. I could see the Kiddush, and after that, when you go to the next prayer, nothing moves. I don't know if it's my computer or.
I don't know. I switched to the other prayer book. Here, I'll try stopping the share and starting it again just to see if that makes it.
I didn't have Lakado D. I didn't have any. I don't know. I see you and everybody else, but the prayer book's frozen and doesn't change.
I don't know. Mike, do you have any thoughts?
It's probably a problem on him, unfortunately.
I think, unfortunately, it's probably on your end, and I would suggest maybe leave and come back again and see if that helps.
All right, thank you. Sorry to disrupt the service.
Oh, it's okay. We want everybody to be able to have the experience and participate. So, okay. So we're going to continue with the Baruch Hu, the call to worship. Entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time. Even at unlikely times and through unlikely places, like Zoom, there is no place on earth without the presence. I invite you, if you're able, to rise for the Baruch Hu.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Let's be seated. One must repeat from time to time, the world was created for my sake. Never say, what do I care about this or that? Do your part to add something new, to bring forth something that is needed, and to leave the world a little better because you were here briefly. Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav.
Baruch atah Adonai, speak the evening into being. B'chokhmah poteach she'arim, as you turn the seasons round. Uv'machalif et hazmanim, let the stars keep watch above us. Baraki ad kirtzono, for the day and night are yours. Borei yom v'layla, borei yom v'layla, kolelom mibnei choshech, v'choshech mibnei or. Borei yom v'layla, borei yom v'layla, kolelom mibnei choshech, v'choshech mibnei or. Ma'avir yom u'mevi laila, crossing over into darkness. Mavdil ben yom u'vein laila, drawing lines within the light. Adonai Tzevaot Shemo, God living and enduring. Tamid yimloch aleinu, forever and beyond. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamariv Aravim.
I'd like to invite Nathan Schrader to read at the top of page 5.
When justice burns within us like a flaming fire, when love evokes willing sacrifice from us, when, to the last full measure of selfless devotion, we demonstrate our belief in the ultimate triumph of truth and righteousness, then your goodness enters our lives, and we can begin to change the world. And then you live within our hearts, and we, through righteousness, behold your presence.
Thank you.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amecha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta, Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shachbenu, uv'kumenu nasiach b'chokecha, v'nizmach b'divrei Toratecha, uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed, ki chem chayenu, v'orech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam v'layla, nege yomam v'layla, v'ahavatcha al tasir, mimenu le'olamim, baruch atah Adonai, ohiv amo Yisrael.
For Judaism gave mankind, humankind, its first civil rights program. It was expressed in the Shema, the watchword of the Jewish faith. Hear, O Israel, the eternal, our God, the eternal is one. As God is one, humankind is one, for each is created equally in the image of God.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzvacha hayom al levavecha. Vishinantam levanecha, vidiboretam bam, bishivtecha bevitecha, uvelechtecha vaderech, uvishochbecha, uvekomecha, ugesharetam leot al yadecha, vihayule totafot, binenecha, ukitavtam, amizuzot, Bitecha uvisharecha, lemon tizkero vasitem, ekol mitzvotai, vitem kudushim lelohechem, ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzetirchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, v'hiyot lachem Elohim, ani Adonai Elohechem.
Emma Tattenbaum-Fine, would you be so good as to read the bottom half of page 6?
Yes, certainly. Bottom half. Starting from when people? Yeah.
Yes, please.
When people come to you for help, do not turn them off with pious words, saying, "Have faith and take your troubles to God." Act instead as if there were no God, as though there were only one person in all the world who could help, only yourself. Martin Buber. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Mishkan Tefillah. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come, the song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more. The song of a world redeemed, the song of peace. Mishkan Tefillah.
Ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi chamocha nidar b'kodesh nora tehilot osef ele nora tehilot osef ele מלכותך רהו בניך, וכהיום לפני משה ומרים, זילי אנו ואמרו, זילי אנו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני הפורש סוכת שלום. שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל. ועל ירושלים ועל כל עמו. ועל ירושלים שלום. ועל ירושלים ועל כל עמו. ועל ירושלים שלום. ברוך אתה אדוני הפורש סוכת שלום. שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל. שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Prayer cannot bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, and rebuild a weakened will. I invite you, if you're able, to rise for the tefillah, the Amidah.
Adonai, sefatai tiftach, ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohi Avotinu, Ve'imoteinu, Elohi Avraham, Elohi Yitzchak, Elohi Yaakov, Elohi Sarah, Elohi Rivka, Elohi Rachel, Elohi Leah, Ha'el, Hagadol, Hagibor, Ve'hanara, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei HaKol, Ve'zocher Chastevot Ve'imot, U'mivi Gilol Livnei V'neihem, L'man Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Hozeh, Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol Atarav Lehoshia, Mahashiv Haruach Morid Hashem, Michalkel Chayim Bechesed, Michaye Hakol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofech Holim, Almighty Rasurim, Umekayim Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Baile Givurot, Umidom Melach, Melech Memit Umechaye, Umat Yeshua, V'ne'emanat ala hachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mikaye hakol, Ata kadosh, B'shimcha kadosh, Kadoshim bechol yom, Yehalelucha Selah, Baruch atah Adonai, El HaKadosh.
Let's be seated. Bob Levine Freed, would you read for us on page 10?
We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to end war, for we know that you have made the world in a way so that all of us must find our own path to peace within ourselves and with our neighbors. Do I continue?
Yes.
Yes, okay. We cannot merely pray to you, God, to end starvation, for you have already given us the resources with which to feed the entire world if we would only use them wisely. We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to root out prejudice, for you have already given us eyes with which to see the good in all people if we would only use them rightly. We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to end despair, for you have already given us the power to clear away slums and to give hope if we would only use our power justly. We cannot merely pray to you, O God, to end disease, for you have already given us great minds with which to search our cures and healing, if only we use them constructively. Very apt for this time where we live. Therefore, we pray to you instead, O God, for strength, determination, and courage, to do instead of just pray, to become instead of merely to wish. Praised are you, O God. You bless our people Israel and all peoples with peace. Adapted by Jack Reamer.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim le'olam. Ki ata melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim le'olam. V'tov b'necha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol et u'b'chol shah b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim le'olam.
Baruch atah Adonai hamivarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. On page 11, before we continue quietly. Elaine Starfity, would you unmute yourself and read the excerpt from the I Have a Dream speech?
Oh, how can you let me dream? The most beautiful. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, and women. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even in the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I have a dream, delivered August 28th, 1963. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. And now we continue quietly. There are words on the page. You can also, always, we can use the words that are in our own hearts.
אלוהי ניצור לשוני מרע, ושפתי מדבר מרמה, ולמקללי נפשי תדום, ונפשי כעפר לכל תהיה אלוהי, אלוהי, פתח ליבי, פתח ליבי, פתח ליבי, בתורתך. אלוהי ניצור לשוני מרע, ושפתי מדבר מרמה, ולמקללי נפשי תדום, ונפשי כעפר לכל תהיה אלוהי, אלוהי, יהיו לרצון אמרי פי, והגיון ליבי לפניך, אדוני, אדוני, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי. May the one who makes peace in the heavens descend on us, and the world will say Amen. May the one who makes peace in the heavens descend on us, and the world will say Amen.
Ellen Rothstein, would you read for us the Lauren Eisley passage?
Once upon a time, a poet went for a walk along the beach when he saw a woman moving oddly along the ocean shore. At first, he thought she was dancing, but as he got closer, he realized that the woman was picking up starfish one by one and throwing them back into the sea. "What are you doing?" the poet asked. The dancing woman replied, "The tide is low, and unless I put these starfish back in the water, they will surely die." The poet responded, "There are millions of miles of beach and thousands of starfish. You can't possibly make a difference. With that, the woman leaned forward, picked up a starfish, and threw it back into the water. It made a difference for that one, she said. Lauren Eisley. The Talmud teaches us that one who saves a life saves the entire world.
Thank you, Ellen. And so, with that, we turn our thoughts to those among us and those in our hearts who are ill and who are in need of healing of body, of mind, or of spirit. If you have names of people for whom you are praying for healing this evening that you did not send into the office, I invite you to put them in the chat now. And I'll also give you an opportunity to add them out loud if you prefer. We hold in our thoughts and in our hearts for healing this evening Jesse Sakharov, Ira Weiss, Elaine Drucker, Allison Plummer, Patty Ann Cubero, Susan Sisler, Alan Fremer, Susan Bilecki, Dana Haitkin Nelson, Arlene Rosenthal, Michael Luck, Barbara Weiner, Andy Glantzman, Julie Falkowski, Amy Juskowitz Soonseller, Ira and Deanna Roth, Roz Bornstein, Susan Shoro, Irv Weiner, Eddie DeAngelis, Ira Goldman, Vicky Lightnaker, Nettie Trommer, Mia Gannon, Richie Stein, Jeff Abel, Harold Gleiberman, Suzanne Leknos, Florence Schoen, Jules Feldman, Esther Bott Lucy, Ted and Albert Galerntner, Ron Homan, Joel Secundi, Iris Merlis, Maxine Breland, Ruth and Arthur Penn, Leslie Rogowski, Andrea Graves, Roz Zuckerman, Warren Feliz, Elena Aram, Chanel Kamabach, Jimmy Jenkins, Paul Kastick, Shirley Joseph, Teresa O'Sullivan, Jerry Taylor, Robin and Neil Parr, Ali Franklin, Stu Behrman, Marlene Unterberger, Glenda Greenman, Freya Kashmir, Delphine Wolf, Roz Solomon, Joan Lifshitz, Ira Berkowitz, and Glenda Greenman. Shirley Joseph, Jane Perry's dad, Joanna Marie, Teresa O'Sullivan, Louisa Espute, Christian, Chin Loy, Tatiana, Jerry Taylor, Abraham Kalesi, Patricia Matthews, Irving Barker, Lyle Silversmith, Rebecca Rothstein, Bambi Polk, Pilar Bonilla, Julie, Jay, and Aiden, Michael Moore, Nancy Connor, Dave Stanger, Elliot Woofsey, Bobby and Dan, David and Marilyn, Mara Duskin, Pat Martin, Sam Sarfati, Michelle and Amanda Bracco, Suzanne Mishler Hernandez, Bayumi Mohammed, Tara and Jackson Kushler, Stanley Tenen, Ronnie Katlowitz, David Gershon, Shelley Samet, Linda Kushner Silverman, Bernie Cohen, Stacy, David and Wilma Mauser, and Hannah Paines. Does anyone else have names that have not yet been said that they would like to add?
Yes, Rabbi.
If you please go ahead.
Lotta Bloom.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ruth?
Yes. Liz Yasida Mark, Paul and Connie Steiner, Monica Byer, Patty and Erwin Cohen, Mimi Karp.
Emma Rose?
Sophie Tuttleman, Michelle Levar, Emily Calloway.
Linda Feller? You have to unmute yourself, Linda. You're still muted, Linda.
Is this okay now?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Annie Nusimo VC, Michelle Nusimo VC, Kimberly Finnegan, Davy Finnegan, and Braden Finnegan, and Claire Cyber. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Horowitz?
Susan Sisler, I'm not sure if she was mentioned.
She was.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we also include all of those who are currently sick with COVID-19, those who have been wounded in service to our country or Israel, and those who have been hurt in recent disasters, both natural and human created, including those who were injured in last week's attack on the Capitol building.
מי שברך אבותינו, מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mikor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. As always, it is good to see you. It is good to be here with you. In this week's Torah portion, Va'era, Moses, together with Aaron, begins the mission that God has set for him. First, God instructs them to speak to the Israelite people. God says, "Say therefore to the Israelite people, I am the Eternal. I will free you from the labors of the Egyptians and deliver you from their bondage. I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and through extraordinary chastisements. And I will take you to be my people, and I will be your God. And you shall know that I, the Eternal, am your God, who freed you from the labors of the Egyptians. I will bring you into the land which I swore to give to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and I will give it to you for a possession, I, the Eternal." Now, unfortunately, when Moses delivers this message, the people won't listen, and the text tells us exactly why. Their spirits were crushed by cruel bondage. But God doesn't tell Moses to stick around and try to convince them. And I don't think that the point here was to rally them or convince them or even inspire them at this juncture. Rather, I think God just wants them to know the plan, whether they believe it now or not, so that when things start happening, they can remember this and know what's going on. At any rate, God tells Moses and Aaron now to turn their attention to the Pharaoh. Of course, he won't listen to them either. And in response, there are plagues. Blood, frogs, lice, swarms of insects, cattle disease, boils, and hail are the plagues that we read about in this week's Torah portion. I'm sure that most of you are familiar with these already from the Passover story that we talk about in our Seders every year. And those who were at the poetry session before services, there was the reference to the drops of wine that we flick from our glasses when we name the 10 plagues. So we don't have 10 yet, we have 7. And we know that in next week's Torah portion, there will be 3 more, and those are the worst yet. But why so many plagues? Why 10 plagues? It seems that Pharaoh ought to be able to tell pretty quickly that he's outmatched here. Okay, yes, for the drama of our origin story, the Exodus story, we need all the plagues. We need the mighty hand. We need the outstretched arm. We need the signs and the wonders and the extraordinary chastisements. We need the drama. But there's also something else that happens that we read in the text that could lead a person like Pharaoh to think he can handle this situation, even though that turns out to be incorrect. And here's what it is. During the first encounter between Moses and Aaron and Pharaoh, in order to show that they aren't just regular guys, Aaron throws his staff on the floor and it becomes a serpent. It's a miracle. They have to be representing God, right? But Pharaoh calls his magicians, and they throw their staffs on the floor and replicate the miracle because they also turn into snakes. Aaron's snake swallows the magician's snakes, but nevertheless, Pharaoh's heart stiffened, and he did not heed them. And because of this, the first plague comes down on Egypt. God tells Moses to tell Aaron to hold out his rod over the waters of Egypt, and they all turn to blood. The Egyptian magicians again use their spells to also turn water into blood, and seeing this, Pharaoh hardens his heart again. The second plague of frogs plays out similarly. God inundates Egypt with frogs through Moses and Aaron, but the Egyptian magicians are also able to bring forth frogs from water. So Pharaoh's heart hardens yet again. It is only the third plague, lice, and the subsequent plagues that are beyond the power of Pharaoh's magicians. So here's what we know. God, the creator of the world, that one, wants the Israelites as God's people and wants them released from Egypt. God sends representatives with the ability to perform miracles, and really it's God doing the miracles. 3 times, Pharaoh's magicians seem to be able to do the same thing, which makes it seem like Moses and Aaron might just be magicians too, doing spells or sleight of hand, some kind of illusion. But Pharaoh is misled. He hardens his heart based on the idea that what Moses and Aaron are doing is the same thing that his magicians are doing, when it isn't. But having believed it 3 times, it becomes difficult for Pharaoh to turn back, to swallow his pride, and to say, this is a power much greater than my own. One of the few principles I remember from my introductory core curriculum economics class in undergrad is that of sunk costs. And here's a story of sunk costs. When Mike and I were in our 20s, we were looking for an apartment in Manhattan. We found a sublet in a co-op building. We signed a lease with the guy, and he offered to sell us the furniture that was in the apartment for, I think, around $3,500. It was a lot of money for us, especially at that time. We bought the furniture and gave him the money. Then it turned out that he had violated the co-op rules by subletting too often, and we ended up not being able to get the apartment. We told the guy we wanted the furniture or our money back, but he was resistant and he was, I'm not going to use the word in the middle of services for what he was, and he acted like it was all our fault and that he could sue us, although he clearly had no grounds for that and it was all his fault. But it took up so much energy and so much time, and we were really young and we didn't like confrontation, and it was like really messing with us. And so I finally said, let's just forget it. It's sunk costs. It's sunk money. We gave him the money. We're not going to get the money back without a whole lot more time and energy and aggravation. It isn't worth it. And even if he gave us the furniture, we don't have any place to put it. And so we walked away. And it was hard to do because we'd put in, we paid a lot of money and we were right. But that was sunk cost. We couldn't get that stuff back. And giving it more of our time and energy was not going to make things better. It wouldn't help. So we walked away. Historian Dr. Heather Cox Richardson has talked about this in another context. She says it's hard for presidents to get out of wars because once you've gotten involved, it's hard to say, even after all of the soldiers' lives that have been lost and all of the money that has gone into this military effort, it's time to get out. It's very hard to be the one to say this was a mistake and it's time to walk away. It's a matter of resources that have been devoted to it, and it's also a matter of pride. The longer you're committed to an idea or a leader or a particular course of action, the harder it is to say, I shouldn't have gotten involved in that from the beginning. I was wrong. I wonder if you can think of a time when you've clung to an idea or a relationship or a task long after you began to suspect that it wasn't good. Maybe it was a car that was a lemon. Maybe it was a friendship or even a marriage. Maybe you stuck with it because you'd already given it a lot of your time and resources, or maybe because your pride wouldn't let you admit, even to yourself, that you might have been wrong from the start. And I believe that this was Pharaoh's situation. His magicians helped him to tell himself that Moses and Aaron were two-bit magicians themselves trying to trick him, rather than who they said they were, representatives of a God far more powerful than Pharaoh. Once it became clear that he was wrong about that, and his magicians said, "We can't replicate this. It must be God's finger." He was already in too deep, and his pride wouldn't let him give in, with disastrous results for him and for Egypt. It takes much greater strength of character to be able to admit you were wrong than to stick with a position or relationship out of pride, to save face, or because you've already put so much into it, even when it becomes more and more clear that the position or the relationship or whatever it is wrong and unhealthy. So let us, as much as we can, be honest with ourselves and recognize when we are devoting our resources to projects that we need to let go of, accepting that the resources we've already put in are sunk costs. They're gone, and putting more resources into that same hole won't bring them back or make the project into a better one. Let us understand that when we realize we've gone down a wrong or unhealthy path, pride is less important than putting ourselves right. May we have the strength to turn around, to walk away, to try something different. May our loved ones support us as we do so, and may we support others who wish to do it as well. Amen and Shabbat Shalom. Do we have an anthem, or are we going straight to the Aleinu? I don't know what that means.
We will go straight to the Aleinu.
Absolutely. Before we rise for the Aleinu, I invite you on page 12 at the bottom to read responsively with me. Merger, A Vision of the Future by Judy Chicago. And then all that has divided us will merge, and then compassion will be wedded to power. And then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind. And then both men and women will be gentle. And then both women and men will be strong. And then no person will be subject to another's will. And then all will be rich and free and varied. And then the greed of some will give way to the needs of many. And then all will share equally in the earth's abundance. And then all will care for the sick and the weak and the old. And then all will nourish the young. and then all will cherish life's creatures, and then all will live in harmony with each other and the earth, and then everywhere will be called Eden once again. I invite you to rise if you're able for the Elenu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגופי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס עולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום, והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Let's be seated. We turn our thoughts now to those who are no longer with us, our loved ones who have died in the past days or weeks or months, or in past years at this time of the year. I have shared the yahrzeit list on the screen. I know the text is tiny. It's because there's not a lot of names on the list, so I hope you can see it well enough. And if you have not sent in the names of someone that you are saying the mourner's Kaddish for this evening, please put those into the chat, as I see people are already doing. I want to begin by saying that I'm sorry to say that Barry Strumpf died today. I believe the funeral has not happened yet, but beginning next week, we will include him in our mourner's Kaddish. But I did want to mention him. He was the brother of Charlotte's son-in-law, if I remember correctly. If that's right, is that right, Charlotte? Yes. Charlotte's nodding. So we remember those who have died in the past year. Robert Bonenfant, Dorothy Mason, Judy Panzer, Barry Ween, Charlotte Brown, David Schachter, Douglas Maines, Devorah Lewis, Tria Sapir, Jane Evans, Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, Manny Pastor, Ruth Rubin, Harris Reese, Emerson Berger, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Carolyn McNamara, Marion McGivney, Ronnie Turek, Michaela Schaefer, Helen Zagerman-Schwimmer, Ido Sheffy, Elaine Gordet, Dr. Stephen Kamholtz, Carol Gross, Carol Andre, Robert Serpico, Jeanette Riley, Melvin Barish, William Lamp, Ina Sandals, Martin Schenken, Solomon Tettelbaum, Howard Jankelowitz, Sean Singer, Jeff Harris, Sammy Berger, Rabbi Kenneth Roseman, Chaim Braunzweig, Harry Baylor, Benjamin W. Schaefer, Shirley Hyatt Tobias, Myron Klein, Ted Tobias, Rita Belay, Jay Jankelowitz, Sandy Gannon Abel, David Ribbler, Bess Newman, Buzz Lorch, Benjamin Benjamin Elwood, Edward Albino, Joseph Davis, Gary Zeitlin, Abby Scheck, Ted Gordon, Hannah Besser, Jay Roseman, Selma Gold, Jeff Gold, Leah Trislanger, Inga Probetsky, Hugh Pollock, Madeline Makoda, David Levy, Mary Garsonowitz, Miriam Feldman, Sender Resnikoff, Rose Resnikoff, Samuel Erstreich, Bertha Ostreich, Norman Sage, Tom Merriman, co-founder and director of Butterfly Farms in Encinitas, Jason Dworkin. On our yard site list this week are included Ellen Block's brother, Alan Bergman, Karen Wilco's cousin, Barry Bodner, David Goldberg's mother, Sarah White Goldberg, Lori Pandolfo's cousin, Claire Greenberg, Susan Horowitz's father-in-law, Benjamin Horowitz, Jeffrey Jaffe's brother, Stephen Jaffe, Elliot Drucker's grandmother, Rachel Kobitz, Gail Levine's sister, Bonnie Sue Levine, Robert Pandolfo, a wonderful member, and Lori Pandolfo's husband, Scott Smith's mother, Jacqueline Smith, in whose memory Emma Tattenbaum Fine's position was created, Sharon Spellman's father, Richard Spellman, David Olesov's uncle, Murray Tigler, and Brian Wilco's father, Elliot Wilco. Does anyone else have names that they would like to add? If so, you can unmute yourself. Anyone?
My nephew, Michael Shore, is on the yard site list.
Thanks. Anyone else? Okay. We include all of those who have died around the world from COVID-19. It is over 2 million people now. And we include those who have died from other causes, whether war or famine or terror or disaster, or alone and homeless on the streets of our cities. We include also the police officer who was killed at the Capitol last week. I invite you now to rise for the mourner's Kaddish and join in. No, that's not it. Sorry. Or to participate according to your own custom. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'yamru, Amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach leolam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yit hadar, v'yit aleh, v'yit halal, shemei dekudesha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, dam yaran be'alma, v'yimru, Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru, Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, and comfort to the bereaved wherever they may be. And let us say, Amen. Let's be seated.
Oseh shalom bimromav, Oyaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
I'd like to invite now our president, Eric Platt, to give us announcements.
Good Shabbos. I'd like to thank Rabbi Hoover and Noni for preparing this special service for Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. And I invite you to come tomorrow morning for services at 11 o'clock. Because of Martin Luther King's birthday, there's no religious school tomorrow. On Monday, in honor of Martin Luther King's birthday, I encourage you to see Soul to Soul, that's being sponsored by the Folkstein on Monday at 4 p.m. We have gone to this, I've gone to this concert, and many others from our congregation have gone. And it's always a tremendous concert, and I'm sure it will be just as good on Zoom. So please, or whatever platform they're putting it on. So I encourage you to see it. You'll really enjoy it. I think, and Rabbi also had sent out a list of other opportunities for doing some service on the day of service on Monday. Am I right? Good. Also, this Tuesday at 1 o'clock is Torah study with Rabbi Pinsky. And next week, of course, there's services on Friday night, Shabbat services Friday night and Saturday. And before services on Friday night, Rabbi Hoover will do another poetry session at 7. And Rabbi Pinsky, Rabbi Hoover will do B'Yakad on Saturday at 9:45 prior to services at 11 o'clock. And there is religious school again at 9:15. And on Sunday, January 24th, we have the Find Your Jewish Roots event. And I think that's on Sunday, January 24th at 4 o'clock. And
3 o'clock, Eric.
At 3 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay. And the following weekend, on Saturday, January 30th, prior to services, I'm not exactly sure of the time, but there will be a Tu B'Shvat Seder with the children from the religious school and their families and anybody else who would like to attend. It's going to be, if anybody went to the Tu B'Shvat Seder last year, you know that it was for everybody. So I encourage you to attend, and you'll get more information about the time in the weeks ahead. And then on Sunday, January 31st, we will be having a Tu B'Shvat Seder with our friends from the Munster Jewish community in Ireland. And that will be Sunday, January 31st at 11:30 p.m. You have been sent a notice with a flyer, and also you can register on Eventbrite. So I encourage you to attend this. So I wish you all a good week. I hope to see you sometime during the week and the weeks to follow. And Shabbat Shalom.
Can I add to those announcements?
Sure.
Okay. Something is hot off the press, so I'm telling you about it. We haven't advertised it yet. On February 14th, Valentine's Day, we are going to have a scavenger hunt with a Valentine themed event hosted by Fred Bear and Bill Schaefer. In addition to that, we have a, let's see now, let me see if I can get that. Here we go. We have gentle chair yoga and gentle qigong with meditation and Jewish wisdom with Gail Levine Fried and Bob Fried. And on February 7th, we are having the Pink Challah Bake, which we are doing jointly with the women of Bisher, the sisterhood organization, to bring awareness of ovarian and breast cancer for men as well as women. And we're going to have a person who's going to help us make a challah. And while the dough is rising, we're going to learn all about what we can do to learn about and prevent and care for people who have this disease. So lots going on. So thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. I just want to clarify that tomorrow morning at 9:45, we will have B'Yachad. It's not just the service at 11. I just want to make sure that was clear. And now we're going to close our service with a brief reading and then Salam Shalom. In the Jewish tradition, the separation between prayer and action is slight. We are mindful of the admonition in Isaiah where God says, I don't want your fast and your sacrifice. I want you to deal your bread to the hungry, tear apart the chains of the oppressed. And Leviticus 19 tells us that to be holy in the way God is holy means to set aside a corner of our fields for the poor and homeless, to pay the laborer a timely and fair wage, and to remove stumbling blocks. These are religious activities just as much as prayer is. They are all woven together. After participating in the Civil Rights March in Selma, Alabama, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, one of the last century's great religious figures and a close colleague of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., said, "It felt like my feet were praying." Prayer is not just the communication we have with God. It is also the work we do to make God's values real to the world. I think God listens to both kinds of prayer with equal joy. Rabbi David Saperstein, Director, Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism.
Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו ועל כולם, שלום עלינו ועל כל העולם, שלום, שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל העולם, שלום, שלום. עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו ועל כולם. עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו ועל כולם.
יברכך אדוני וישמרך, יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונקה, יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך Shalom. May God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine on you and be gracious to you. May God lift God's face toward you and give you peace. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.